So we have a choice here. We can do things like we've done them in the past. We can manage like we have in the past. We can treat our employees as we have in the past. Or we can take a look at the future. And we can look at a new way based on new knowledge to create new models and new paradigms for how to lead and manage people in organizations. So to do that, I want to take a look at the human brain. Oh, sorry. Human brain. Okay, there we go. When we look at the brain, we're trying to find, we know more about how the brain operates than we ever have before. And the neural net, the neural systems that we use at home are identical to the ones we use at work. For decades, we told people, leave that stuff at home, you're now at work. It's different. The brain doesn't see the distinction. There is no distinction to the human brain about whether you're at work or at home. The same things that drive what's positive and good in your behavior work at home as they do at work. So we need to get that notion out of our head that somehow when people come to work, they switch neural servers and now they're on a work server, and all those things related to what drives behavior at home are different here. They're not, and it's delusional to think that they are. And that's where management has been delusional for a long, long time, and we need to change that. What is it that the brain is after? This role of emotion. Now, emotion, let me define emotion a little bit differently. We think of emotion, again, as these weepings and extremes of human behavior. But I want you to think of emotion differently. Think of emotion in the human brain as a GPS. It's your internal GPS orienting you towards conditions and behaviors that the brain seeks and wants to thrive. That's what the role of emotion is. It's to draw you in when it's safe and to push you away when it isn't. And when we do things in organizations that push people away, engagement goes down. The ultimate goal is to create conditions at work that the brain actually wants to lean into. So at a very fundamental level, the brain is focused on survival. And that's not news. It's been around a long time, but it's actually, I think, has obfuscated, has confused what it is we need to do in the workplace. If I simply told you that all your employees come to work every day, they're focused on survival, you wouldn't necessarily know what to do. So I want to give you two other words, and these are, I view them as concentric circles, survival at the core, but the first circle is around safety, being safe. Don't just think physical safety, think emotional safety. I'll give you a specific example. A manager, for example, who is inconsistent and unpredictable. Is that person safe as a leader? That lack of consistency and lack of predictability? No, it is not. It's crazy making. Toxic managers aren't just managers, for example, with anger issues. They're also managers that provide no clarity, are inconsistent and unpredictable. But here's one that is relatively new for us, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about. And the brain will never feel safe if it isn't connected safely with others. So we want to know more about this limbic brain because it's so powerful, but it's not very smart. And we've had the pleasure in our organization of being advised by a really brilliant neuroscientist at the University of Virginia named Jim Cohn. And Jim and his research at the university has been able to prove that the brain is actually organized. The architecture of the human brain is that it assumes it's in a group. And the brain will only truly thrive and be at its best when it is in a group with other human beings. He calls it social baseline theory. That is the social baseline. The baseline is we are social animals, not just social animals, he would say, but we're actually herd animals. And he said, as neuroscientists, we should have figured this out decades ago. We evolved in groups, in clans, in tribes. And as a biologist, I know there's this point that's referred to as the evolutionary bottleneck, where the conditions on planet Earth were so harsh that there were only about 10,000 Homo sapiens left. What were some of the characteristics or the key characteristic of those who survived? They were hyper-cooperative. We are hardwired to be in a group. And when we are, we can thrive. But of course, the group has to meet certain conditions. So I was asking him more, okay, so the limbic brain has got a big role in this. How can I describe the limbic brain to our business clients? And he said, well, we kind of joke about it in the lab. We have this visual image of the brain, of the limbic brain. He said, it's not very smart, but it's hyper-attentive. It's hyper-attentive to anything that might be a danger. You're walking through a field and there's a branch off to the side. The limbic brain screams what? Snake! And so, you know, the prefrontal cortex zeroes in, looks, nope, dude, it's just a branch, calm down. But it's the role of the limbic brain is to scream snake. It's hyper attentive, but it's not very smart. So he said, in the lab, we think of the limbic brain as a squirrel. Not very smart, but a twig falls and it's up the tree. That's the limbic brain. Not very bright, hyper attentive. And I said, okay, but I'm going to need more than just to tell them that it's, you know, I want them all to get in touch with their inner squirrel. I need a little bit more information about the limbic brain. Help us out. And he said, okay, we know what the squirrel is asking for and wants all day long. Now we're at the heart, the core of what drives virtually all human behavior, regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, education. It's all the same. We're down at the core of what human beings need with this limbic brain, what it's asking. He said it's asking two questions all day long. What's next? How am I doing? What's next? How am I doing? So when you think of your organizations and your companies, think of them like this. Not necessarily as blobs, but as walking around, what's next? How am I doing? The what's next is related to safety. We want to know what's going to happen next so we can prepare for it. To know what's next, so business term, more clarity around expectations. How about my path within the organization? Most employees have no idea what's next for them in the companies where they work. None. They have no clarity around what's on the horizon. See, the members of the tribe want to know that the leaders of the tribe actually know what they're doing. And if you know you have a strong leader, then the whole tribe feels safer. Hierarchy is one of the most effective and honored organizational systems that we know. It's one of the oldest around. We want to have strong leaders because then we know that we get the sense of things that are okay. What's next? Well, I'm going to outsource that to the leader. Great leader, so we're in good hands. More information, more trust. How am I doing? That's all about recognition, validation. Recognition needs to come at 3 levels in an organization. This is all around this question of how am I doing? 3 levels where you need to give recognition to answer that question for employees. At the individual level, telling individual employees how they're doing. And by the way, if you do give recognition, this is something we discovered by making a mess of it. If you want to give recognition to individuals, please do it first privately. Because it turns out that many people in the organization don't want to be singled out with praise in front of their colleagues.